Ellen Rapoport, creator of Minx on HBO Max, about a young female journalist feminist who joins forces with a low-rent publisher to create the first erotic magazine for women. This show obviously has a lot to say about gender politics. I think it has a great amount to say about generational politics. Why was this the great setting for the ideas you wanted to like kind of talk about with the show?
To be honest, I think the ideas followed the setting. I was actually just interested in these real magazines when I found out about them and about the workplaces that existed back in the 70s and about this idea, that feminists and pornographers banded together to create these things. It just felt like really unlikely bedfellows. And so, once I just started researching that, all of the ideas kind of just naturally came out of that unique setting that really existed.
So one of my things watching it, like I said, giving myself away, the generational stuff I find really fascinating because I feel like it reminds me, I'll humble brag, but I interviewed Jake Johnson about this as well. And I was like, it reminds him, the Doug and Joyce relationship reminds me of like Don and Peggy on Mad Men when he's like, that's what the money is for. Because I feel like he is like got this really cynical or just like, this is the way the world is. And Joyce is trying to like make it better. I mean, make it better, and for lack of a better word. How did you think of it? Like, was that something you thought about? Like that kind of like get off my lawn old man versus like idealist younger person?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's this kind of age-old conflict between the people who become artists to kind of spread their message and the people who are financing them, and it happens in all of our lives. We're always beholden to the person who makes money, and your art will no longer exist if it isn't reaching like a broad number of people. So it just felt like this very timely thing to talk about. Yes. So yes, it was very much. Mm-hmm.
No, I was gonna say, do you have a side? Or do you think Joyce is right or Doug is right in those aspects of it? I guess.
I mean, I think I started out life as a Joyce, and I think as I've gotten older and wiser, I've become a Doug. Frankly, I think I was, at least last season, the voice of Doug in the writers' room. I remember before we wrote the 108 Dick Cavett episode, we all watched Susan Brown-Miller on Dick Cavett debating Hugh Hefner. And at the end, I think I said, what a good job Hugh Hefner did. And literally, I think people booed me. There was like because everyone hated him so much. And I think I've come to the other side. I really do see both sides of it.
Yeah, that's so funny. I think that I could see that too. That's why I was it's early when I watched. I get that sense as well. I guess for Doug and Joyce, I'm sure it seems like another show maybe would have had them try to be a will they won't they couple, or like a romantic aspect, like a Sam and Diane on Cheers certainly comes to mind. The show doesn't do that to its credit, and I think it's really great for their relationship. But was there pressure, or did you think about like pairing them up as like a couple, or was that ever an idea?
It was always something that I knew I did not want to do. It was interesting. I mean, I think people just assume that is something that you're going to do. So as we were casting, it was like, we would just get comments, I guess, maybe we should, find somebody who has chemistry with Joyce, but it was never anything that I was pressured into. And, when Jake came on, he also felt strongly. It's kind of how I knew we were on the same page. We both felt strongly that they shouldn't be in a romance. And it just felt like a dated way, I guess, to kind of conceive of a show. And I don't know, I spend more time at work with the people I work with than with my family sometimes. And I feel like we have different relationships. I just think it's something that you've seen less and is more fun to explore. And, I just don't even know what those stories would be.
No, I think it's great the way it is. That's why I think it's a good thing. When I know, obviously, like we said, like Joyce has, is a journalist and editor, like, trying to create her own magazine, obviously. Mm-hmm. What I saw one of the responses I think about the show is how authentic a lot of the vitriol she faced from like hate mail that like literally was mailed to her, obviously, because you're talking about the 70s. I guess, can you talk about like, how you decided to portray, the hatred that she receives basically, and like, like how you were like, not, I mean, I hazard to say like inspired, but like what did you do? Like, how did you kind of like think about like that and how the response to her would be?
Sure. I mean, like a lot of things, we were interested in what's happening now and how to tie that back to the 70s. So the truth is, I don't actually know how female journalists experienced public vitriol in the 70s, but I guess I was just more interested in looking at the 70s with a current lens. So, I mean, we had our assistants go through Twitter and find all the threats that people would publicly make to female journalists. And then we kind of repurposed them and put them, wrote them out. And the first time Ophelia saw them was when she was shooting the scene. And it was, it's a lot. It's really shocking to realize how much hate is coming at women still today, more so, I think, probably because of how anonymous it all is, and how easy it is. I'm sure it was a lot more effort back then to, find a stamp and you have to get the address. Probably just kept your hate to yourself if it was casual.
Have you heard from like female journalists who have watched it and have been like, yes, that feels very authentic, sadly?
I think I saw something about it on Twitter.
Yeah.
That it felt authentic. And I mean, I guess that's good, but also sad.
Yeah. One of the things I also love about the show is I feel like your storytelling is incredibly economical and also like in a hyperdrive that I really appreciated. Like one of my friends was like, oh, the season finale almost feels like a season 3 finale in that it like jumps so far. It just resets the narrative in such a fashion. Can you talk about like taking those kind of chances with the story and like how, like why you felt like that was a great place to end it with like Doug and Joyce, especially? Like, I just thought that was like very unexpected as a viewer. Cause I think like it said, like, it just felt like something you would see like a few years from now, maybe on the show. So like seeing it now is like exciting.
I mean, I think it speaks to my own undiagnosed ADHD that I just get bored a lot when I watch TV, and especially some half-hour comedies. I think that they rehash the same dynamics over and over, and I understand why that's done, because you just want to keep a show on the air as long as possible. I personally just find myself tuning out. I feel like I just end up watching things that are much more serialized, things that, dramas. And so I just was attracted to doing something that had some sort of, propulsive forward motion, I guess.
Did you, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, how have you thought about season 2? Obviously, since the finale, you guys were picked up for a second season and stuff. So like, how have you thought about like how you want to jump from there into season 2, I guess? I'm sure you have.
Yeah. We're in the writer's room now. We've had our first week. And I would say that season 2 is developing similarly. It really does feel like a serialized show still. I would say even more so in season 2. And, we're really making an effort not to reset them and not to just make it the same thing again, where it's just like a bunch of underdogs against the world. I think we're trying something interesting and different and cool. And it all feels like, I would say even more serialized because we have less world building to do this season.
You also already have the characters in place, certainly, and like beyond Joyce and Doug, as you said, like Ophelia and Jake, the casting is incredible. Again, can you talk about like did you flesh out more as the season went on and you had the actors in place? Was that something where like, oh, we should really do more with like Adara's character or whatever going forward, because they were so good that you were seeing how good they were? Like, how did you kind of think about that with the cast? Because it feels like the supporting parts are incredibly well fleshed out.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Making the pilot was so instructive, and it was just so helpful to see that Adara and Jake had this incredible chemistry, and we knew we wanted to write to that. And also for Bambi and Richie and Shelley, we just felt like we knew which storylines we wanted to concentrate on. And so we were definitely making an effort to write to their strengths, which is the benefit of having shot a pilot.
Yeah. And then I guess for you, like, what is the best response you've heard about the show? Or like, what have you been like excited about, like from, now that people have obviously seen it, all the episodes are on HBO Max and stuff?
I don't know if I can pick. It's just been so nice. I feel like we've had uniformly positive responses basically to the show. I've heard about mothers and daughters watching it together, which is so nice. We're like uniting generations. I'm really surprised. And what I think is also cool is that, I'm told that a lot of men are watching it too, which I think is nice to be able to do a show that isn't alienating, a show about feminism that isn't alienating an entire gender, that we're able to kind of talk about these ideas in a nuanced way that attracts, more people.
But did that surprise you that it landed like that though? Like, obviously you were like, are the driving, you know, the creator of it. Like, were you surprised that like men were like, not get away from me to this show? Because I don't think they have, is speaking from personal experience at least.
You know, I wasn't surprised because we tested it. We tested the pilot, and once we tested the pilot, I was like, we had just such a good response from men that, yeah, I think that they appreciated living in the 70s in a time when you could have conversation without a fear of saying something that offends someone. And I think they appreciated, you know, obviously I'm generalizing, but the 10 men in our Zoom appreciated that. I think in another show, Jake's character would have been disgusting. He would have been a pervert. You know, the show would have existed as a way for like feminists to take down the man. And I think they appreciated having a more nuanced portrayal of a man that was, you know, that I think some people feel like is lacking, I guess, in their entertainment. So after that, you know, I knew, or I hoped that, I hoped that we fulfilled the promise.
No, I think you did. Minx, all the episodes are streaming on HBO Max. Ellen Rapoport, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.